I find my animal, my sheep or my goat in the morning, dead. She was eaten yesterday, but she now dead. I don't know what's wrong. Give me an option. Laziness? No? Poison? Okay, good option, poison. Could be worms? No, but she was eaten and fine yesterday. Black leg? Hardware? No. She's eaten and she's fine. She's dead. Hardware, they don't eat and find, they're dead. With a hardware disease, they would be sick over a period of time, few days. Bloated, good point, bloated, but all right. So anyway, just some fun with you all. Then I cut her open and I see blood everywhere. Blood, yucky, black colored blood, something. Everybody's okay with pictures like this? Okay. All right, all right, just checking. All right, I'm going to talk to you, right, and it's a little trick just to get you all thinking, right? Clostridial diseases is really the first one. There's a key to it, right? Anytime you see with bloat it could be, but normally with bloat you would hear, boy, the belly hurting, the animal was grunting. It could be happening quick enough, but normally with Clostridia, the first thing you hear is, boy, doc, everything all right, you know, nothing wrong with them, and they're just dead. That's Clostridia. And when you cut them, they kind of have this blood-filled, they oozing blood, sometimes through their nose. You cut them, their belly full of blood, their abdomen, their thorax, everywhere is just blood, right? And there are different spectrums. There's the enterotoxemias, tetanus, pulpy kidney disease, black leg, malignant edema. All of these are the Clostridials. Pulpy kidney disease, that one missed me. Where you actually see the kidneys just, when you see the kidney, it's swollen, big, fat, and red. And it's actually kind of a little mushy too, right? Enterotoxemias, very, very common everywhere. Clostridias are everywhere, so everybody have it. I don't care what anybody have to see. Clostridia is everywhere. It's in the dirt, so it's everywhere. And if you have ruminants, even pigs, that's a common thing where you say, boy, the animal just dead. That's what you're going to hear. Animal just dead. Nothing more than that, right?
So how often they pick up this Clostridial disease?
Okay, so we're going to, at any time, you don't know. And that's why, to me, it's the most common one I see in Jamaica and everywhere else, right? And it's the most difficult one to diagnose. Why? The Clostridias are everywhere. So if you take an impression smear or a swab and you culture Clostridia, it doesn't mean that you have it. It doesn't mean, sorry, that it caused the death. So it normally ties in with a lot of other symptoms, which is sudden death. And then you would see, if you see a lot of blood and stuff like that. So it's very, very hard to diagnose, even though it's the most common one. And that's why I put more importance on it. And I'll explain you why. You see the enterotoxemias? I've had many, many farmers call me. Doc, months with 3 lambs, 3, 4, and it affects sheep more than goats. It can affect goats too, but it affects sheep more than goats. A lot of them will call me with lambs 3 and 4 months old, just kind of weaned off, and they put them on the grain. And it's not that they're on the grain is the problem, but grain, heavy grain diets, you want to fatten them, you want to finish them quickly. Remember, this is a production unit, we're trying to make money. So they want to finish them quickly by 6 months, right? So the only way you can do that with good quality meat is to give them a little more grain. So they put them on these grain diets, but that grain creates an environment for the Clostridials to multiply quickly. But there's a very simple solution, and we'll get to that, right? Another thing is tetanus. Again, any little entry wound, any little cut that they get, they can get tetanus. And now the reverse, so the goats are more susceptible to tetanus, in my opinion, than the sheep, right? The goats will die like flies like that, right? And bites and stuff like that. Pulpy kidney disease, we don't see it as much. Black leg, we see that quite a bit, even in big cattle here in Jamaica. You see the cattle walking around fine, boom, it hit the ground, it's dead, right? Black leg is just a Clostridial disease. Again, so Clostridia is a bacteria, sorry. And it's in the ground, in the dirt, it has spores everywhere. So they go and they graze on the pasture, so they will pick up these spores. And blackleg now, and blackleg is more common, and a malignant edema, you have to have an injury for the Clostridia. Except for these two here, except for this one here, the enterotoxemia, you don't need an injury. It has to do with grain diets, okay? The others, you have to have an injury. So let me explain. Tetanus, you would have a bite wound or a nail stick the animal. Boom. Pulpy kidney disease, the injury is normally like also, what is it called? Liver flukes or something like that. Also malignant blackleg is liver flukes, or you could have something like an injection site, right? You go and vaccinate animals, or you give them a deep intramuscular injection, right? And malignant edema has to do with fighting, when they fight and butt and all of those things, okay? So some injury happens, which sets up what they call an anaerobic condition, meaning, you know what anaerobic is? No oxygen, right? And then the clostridials multiply. So the clostridials are always there dormant, but the conditions have to be right for it to multiply. But once they multiply, your animal is dead.
You don't see any sign that you could do anything before you...
Normally, no. No. It's after you come in, right? So I would post the animal and then see the whole heap of blood. Or if a blackleg, I would post the animal, and just by chance, you know, as you're posting them, you run your hand along the leg or something, and then when you run your hand along the leg, you feel this bumpy kind of gassy, like you're popping bubbles. And then we say, okay, fine. But normally, even if you culture it, it doesn't mean that it's that. So it has to be other things that come with it. But sudden death is the number one thing that happens with Clostridia. All right? So what I like about the Clostridia, though, basically, there's treatment. People try, but it's not effective. Because normally you don't see anything. You just see a dead animal. So even if you catch it like with tetanus, I'm going to tell you, you're wasting your time. 99% of the time, the animal is going to die. Right? Because it is such an aggressive organism. But the great thing about it is it is preventable. And the prevention is cheap, cheap, cheap. Covaxin 8, it covers 8, meaning 8 different types of clostridials, right? It has it up here, the Shoviae, septicum, hemolyticum, tetanus, bactrians, propharynges, all of them. And it is a cheap, cheap vaccine. It's actually maybe a few cents US, like 10 cents US to vaccinate an animal. So to me, I vaccinate all of my animals routinely. I just don't wait. And it is really inexpensive. Now this is the combo, the 8-way. You have, specific vaccines for like blackleg alone or malignant edema. I just use this one and I cover everything. So what I do is, I do two steps. I actually vaccinate my mothers 1 week before they're going to kid or lamb. Why? If I vaccinate before they kid or lamb, 1 month before, the colostral immunity will protect the kids or the lambs at least for the first 2 months. At the end of the first 2 months, or maybe 5 to 6 weeks, I then start vaccinating the lambs and the kids. And I give 2 vaccines. I give at 5 or 6 weeks, and then I repeat another 3 weeks later. Okay? So again, before they start maybe those heavy grain diets, they're protected. And I've had farmers that have been losing 40% of their lambs. Came in, did the vaccination program, they lose less than 5% now. Okay? Simple.
Once in your life.
No, not once. Clostridials, you have to repeatedly vaccinate every year. Or twice a year almost. So it really, really works, and it's cheap and inexpensive. Okay? You cannot try and fight a war against Clostridia. You're going to lose. So you have to prevent it. All right? The minute the animal comes down with it and is sick, just resign yourself that you better just not do anything at all. Okay? So, like I said, next thing we talk about is actually a problem to me is dog bites. Right? So that's why I put it right here, because again, it has to do with tetanus. Sheep and goats get bitten up. That's a common thing in the island, every island I know about. And if they do not have the vaccine, the tetanus, the Covaxin 8 before, count your bottom dollar, they're going to be dead. With this, you have a chance that they might live. Okay? I have seen goats recover who were vaccinated previously. I have never seen any goat that was not vaccinated recover. All right? Because remember, they get all these bite wounds that are punctures, holes that are perfect for that anaerobic condition of either tetanus or blackleg. All right? It depends on the level of damage also. Yeah. Yeah. All right? Yeah. So what I find, same thing with bites, most you can do is maybe give them some antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and supportive therapy. That's the best you can do. Okay?